Waterford.
Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Liz Reddy. Today's top stories: the construction of a second cath lab at University Hospital Waterford is on course to be completed in 18 months' time. Several political parties in Waterford have called for a shake-up in how positions are divided within the newly elected City and County Council. The recount of the Ireland's South European Parliament votes could be resolved by the end of the weekend. In sport, the new undisputed world lightweight champion Katie Taylor has arrived back into Dublin Airport. The construction of a second cath lab at University Hospital Waterford is on course to be completed in 18 months' time. Waterford Sinn Féin Deputy David Culnan has received an update which details the time frame for the development, which will provide an additional 6 beds.
And all of this follows from a number of high-level meetings that took place between Oireachtas members and the hospital management and hospital group over the last number of months. And the key was to get the funding released so that HSE Estates could start to work in relation to finalising the design team and then moving on to tender stage. That's now been done. The second cath lab has been released from queue a number of weeks ago, not a number of months ago. So we're now at a position where it's down to HSE Estates in the southeast to progress this as quickly as possible.
He says it's important to have a clear time frame.
Because once we have a time frame, we can hold the HSE Estates and also the hospital group to account. It's a pity that decision wasn't made a long time ago. I think the second cath lab would be built and operational at this stage if that decision was taken. Unfortunately, that was a matter for government and they held out for far too long. But I am pleased at least that funding has been released and we can now progress to the design stage and tender stage.
Several political parties in Waterford have called for a shake-up in how positions are divided within the newly elected City and County Council. Labour's councillors have joined with the Green Party to form a grouping and are supporting the implementation of the D'Hunt system. It would mean positions are divided out evenly based on each group's representation on the council instead of power lying in a majority ruling through a pact. The new term of the council has its first meeting on Friday, and the call for the new method is also supported by Sinn Féin. Labour Party councillor Seamus Ryan says councillors need to look at the D'Hunt system.
D'Hunt, or a version of it, which would give equal say in the running of the council to the various groups, which includes Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour Party, Sinn Féin and Independents and the Greens and so on. Personally, I think if we can find a version of that works for everyone, I think that's the way to go.
He supports distributing positions on bodies such as WIT and the Education and Training Board via the system instead of allowing the positions be decided via pact.
I would fully support that. I think it's important that we look at the various representatives we now have on the council and we look at their expertise, we look at the issues that they're interested in and we try and find the best match. And I think that's important. That's a new way of doing business, if you like, and people use this term new politics. There wasn't much new politics shown in the previous council. So I would be hoping that this new council, when it meets next Friday, that the people of Waterford are represented by a council that's inclusive.
The recount of the Ireland's South European Parliament votes could be resolved by the end of the week, according to returning officer Martin Harvey. Initial reports had suggested that the process could take as long as 28 working days, but Mr Harvey has managed to secure a significant increase in the number of staff taking part in the recount process. 130 people are counting the votes at Nemo Rangers GA Club. The recount was called by Sinn Féin after the distribution of Billy Kelleher's surplus put Green Party candidate Grace O'Sullivan from Waterford ahead by 327 votes. A recheck of votes on Thursday last gave Ms Ní Riada just one extra vote. Sinn Féin members have said they'll call a halt to the recount if it appears it won't make a difference. A Waterford TD says it's very important that the electoral register should be in order once and for all. Turnout for this year's local and European elections was just under 50%. Mary Butler says people were taken off the register while others who died remained on it. The Fianna Fáil deputy told the Dáil about one incident in Waterford.
The 73-year-old man from Mount Mellery in West Waterford turned up to vote. He's never missed a vote in 55 years. He turned up with his wife and when he got there he was removed off the register. through no fault of his own. But I've also heard reports that people who may have died in the last year were still on the register. So my question is simple. Are there any plans to try and update the electoral register to make sure that it is accurate? Because we've hear loads of reports that it's not accurate, and we will be facing into an election cycle, I'd imagine, in the next 12 months.
Minister of State John Paul Phelan says the aim is to introduce a new process of online registration as well as a hard copy registration process in the autumn.
It is slightly complicated by the fact that we don't want to do anything that would undermine the public's confidence in the system and in the process. And as you pointed out yourself, we're not yet sure when other voting events might take place in the future. But the point that you make is accurate. Most of the public consultation returns that we've received have focused on the desirability of using people's PPS numbers to ensure that people who, as you pointed out, have passed away are removed, but also people who have changed address are registered at the right location.
Thousands of protesters are out in force across the UK demonstrating against the US President's visit. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, who refused to attend last night's state banquet, is due to address a rally this lunchtime in London. Donald Trump's arrived at Downing Street for talks with the Prime Minister. Mayor Sadiq Khan thinks people should stand up to Donald Trump.
Surely we should be saying, listen, you do realise you're a poster boy for the far-right movement around the world. We think we face a climate emergency. We think you made a mistake walking away from the Paris Climate Change Accord. And my point is, Theresa May is so weak as a Prime Minister and our government is so scared that it wouldn't say boo to a goose.
Father of a boy accused of murdering Anna Kriegel has told his trial he looked surprised when Gardaí first called to their home. Both his son and another 14-year-old boy deny murdering the Kildare schoolgirl at a derelict farmhouse in Dublin on May 14th last year. Our courts correspondent Frank Rainey has this report, which some listeners may find distressing.
The prosecution believes boy B lured Anna Kriegel from her home in Leixlip, County Kildare, knowing what was to happen to her. His co-accused is accused of violently sexually assaulting and murdering the 14-year-old schoolgirl. Both boys deny the charges. During his evidence today, Boy B's father said his son looked surprised when Gardaí called to their home the night she went missing. During a walkthrough of the park where Boy B initially said he'd last seen Anna, his father said he felt he wasn't fully open, that he was afraid of saying something. The jury's already heard that he claimed he saw Boy A attacking Anna in an abandoned house near the park, and when he asked him why he told lies initially, Boy B's father said he told him he was afraid of Boy A. Under cross-examination, he described his son as very naive and immature, like a child, and he said he thought he'd be punished by Boy A, that he'd find him and beat him up. Frank Rainey, the Central Criminal Court.
The Coast Guard was called to assist two people who were cut off by high tides at Kilfarracy in Waterford yesterday evening. Rescue helicopter 117 was out on an exercise but couldn't reach the stranded pair. The Coast Guard received a call shortly after 6 p.m. and had reached them 8 minutes later. They were brought to a local beach and no medical assistance was required. Roger Sweeney from Water Safety Ireland says a new moon is influencing tides.
For the couple of days before and after the new moon, you'll have these higher tides, but you'll also have an equal and opposite low tide. So if you're walking the beach with family and friends, a lot of people are often tempted to go a little further out because of this. The effect of the new moon will create these areas that people wouldn't normally be able to get to. There'll be more exposed coastline.
WLR Sport.
Thanks to Boland's Hyundai Waterford. Preview the award-winning 192 Hyundai range. See bolands.com.
Katie Taylor has spoken about the controversy around her win over Delphine Persoon on Saturday night. Her Belgian opponent has lodged an official complaint over the points decision in New York on her arrival home today. Though at Dublin Airport, Taylor was in no doubt that she won the fight.
No, I don't think I had any doubts. I think Brian knew and Ross knew straight away that I had it from early on in the fight. I think I racked up some of the earlier rounds, and it was a very, very close fight. He's a great champion. That's what happens when the best is fighting the best. It was an absolute battle, but thankfully came out victorious.
Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy is expected to field the same team that beat Georgia in Dublin for Friday night's Euro 2020 qualifier against Denmark in Copenhagen. Shane Long has a hamstring problem, but the manager won't be calling up anyone new to the squad. David McGoldrick is set to lead the line as the sole striker. Waterford FC's Zach El-Bouzidi had the Republic of Ireland under-21s ahead after just 33 seconds in their game against China in the Toulon tournament campaign yesterday. That was followed with a second goal from Aaron Connolly just 4 minutes later. China pulled one back, but a pair of second-half penalties from Adam Ida completed another victory. Up next for Ireland are last year's runners-up Mexico on Thursday night, followed by the concluding Group C match against Bahrain on Sunday. There's plenty of Waterford interest in the squad, including Manchester United's Lee O'Connor, Brighton and Hove Albion's Jay Malumbi and Waterford FC's Aaron Drinan. In rugby, a 19-year-old from County Waterford is included in the Ireland panel as they kick off their World Under-20 Championship bid later. Thomas Ahern from Ardmore is new into the panel. They play England in their opening game in Argentina. The match gets underway at 7:30 Irish time in Santa Fe. The other encounter is in Ireland's pool will see Australia take on Italy. And there's horse racing today at Tipperary with the first off at 5:30. Sports News on WLR brought to you by Boland's Waterford.